What's the deal, family? We're going to go ahead and jump right in because I got something to say. All right, look, before we get into this video, I do want to give a couple of disclosures. First one being is that I do have my bullet points off to the side right here that I will periodically be tapping in with as usual, so that I can get this video off in the structured format that I have set up. Second one being, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, so we can continue to grow this family and this community up of like-minded individuals, so that we can get this thing up to 1,000 and we can start going live and really start having some fun and some real convos that need to be had. So now that we got that out the way, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in because I got something to say. All right, title of the video: what do I believe in? Or am I religious? Now, before I answer that $1,000,000 question, we're going to take a couple steps back into the past, into memory lane, and then we're going to start walking it back forward. So we're going to go back to where I was like a little lad. We're going to go back to where I was a baby boy, you know what I mean? And then we're going to walk it back up. So, um, moms had me and my sister. Okay, we grew up Christian. Well, you know what, let me take it a step further back. I think no, I don't think I know. Growing up early on, moms had me and my sister going to the kingdom hall, right? So we was on that Jehovah Witness tip, probably for me around the ages of 4 and 6, I want to say 4 and 6. I think that's fair, right? And so we was dabbling in that area for a little bit. Um, I remember having the Bible studies, and going to the Kingdom Hall. In fact, little side story, I remember being at the Kingdom Hall one time, and moms was off having a conversation with a group of ladies, and I was a little lad running around trying to figure out how to be destructive and be a boy and have some fun. So I call myself, you know how the roles is set up in the my fault, family, I got a message. You know how the roles are set up, within the churches or the Kingdom Hall buildings like that, and then you had the little rest areas for your arm. I call myself swinging back and forth on that, and coming from up under it and slipping, going backwards, busting my whole back of my head. Mom's panicking, anxiety on 100, pick me up, take me to the bathroom. I'm leaking real bad. And yeah, I got cleaned up, but I still wear that scar today, because it was deep. I did damage, but little boys, what can you do? But that's one of my memories of being at the Kingdom Hall. So fast forward to about 7, uh, up to about, for me, 25, I want to say. Grew up in the church, right? From there on out, from 7 to about 25, was in the church, right? Or if I wasn't necessarily in the church, I was definitely a believer within the Christianity world. So, um, now that we got that off, like most of y'all, before I even continue to keep going, most of us grew up in the church, right? Christians, right? That's what we're taught. That's the indoctrination, especially in my community, in the so-called Black community, is what we are pretty much indoctrinated to, for the most part. I know some Muslim, I mean, it's a range of things, but I know for the most part, Christianity, right? So yeah, was in church Sunday, uh, and Tuesday, so twice a week, Sundays and Tuesdays. Sundays being the regular day. Tuesdays was more of a youth night type for the younger for the teenagers and the younger adults, And that was actually a pretty dope time. Actually, growing up, you learn a lot. I know I did. I learned a lot being able to converse with, my peers and other ones coming up and all that stuff. It was actually a pretty dope time. But anyways, so that's how it was. So I grew up Christian, right? Now we're gonna walk it forward a bit, and we're gonna settle into about 2015, 16, 17, somewhere around that. Um, I went through something. I went through something that had me basically, I don't want to say down and out, but I was definitely at a point where I was depressed. And I was, honestly, all I did was, um, at this time, I was going to work. I was coming home. I was working out. Um, I was eating, and I wasn't eating because I was hungry. I was eating because I had to eat, because I had not really been eating like that. I was depressed. So those who know. And yeah. So what I had went through was obviously a painful situation for me. You know what I mean? Like most of us on our journeys, or before starting our actual journeys, a lot of times it's always started by some type of adversity or some sort of pain of that sort. So those who know, those who can relate, because that's where mine started from. So and what sparked that end up sparking questions from me. You know what I mean? Like I started having questions because nothing was making sense. I felt as though I was doing everything right. I was trying to at least be righteous at the time. My heart has always been in the right place. So that was never a question, if nothing else. That was never a question, but I had questions. So I started asking questions. And one of the questions that I began to ask was, um, for truth. What are we doing? You know, you got people out here winning. You got that's doing X, Y, and Z of different types of bullshit, and you got people out here that's moving with the right intention, and they lose. What is this? And then you've been hearing your whole life, um, you know, just be patient, turn the other cheek. And I'm like, I got to a point where I was just like over that completely, and I needed to know more. So that's when my journey started around 2015, 16, 17, right? And it started with pain. It started with me depressed and down and going through some things. And then from there, uh, questions began to be asked. And from there, answers began to be had. So I started getting answers, slowly but surely. And, uh, you know, from there, everything began. Now, the $1 million question: am I religious? I am 100% not religious, man. You know what I mean? I'm not. Leading up, you could tell where I was going, where this whole thing was going. I'm definitely not religious. Um, and again, because when I begin to ask those questions, um, I begin to get led where I begin to get led, and what I began to find out was, um, the whole religious section was all a way of gaining and having or maintaining a level of control over society, right? Because if you look at the religions and those who are religious out there, you shouldn't even be in here. You could be here, but if you're going to be sensitive and it's going to hit nerves, you shouldn't be here. You know what I mean? Let's just keep it like that, because it is what it is. Religion, if you look at it, is really based around fear. You know what I mean? And I don't care what religious practice you go get, it's some type of fear in there. You know what I mean? And you notice it's a whole thing it's a control mechanism. And so when I begin to find that out, I started asking even more questions. And so you guys know how the journey go. So to answer the question, no, I'm not religious. Um, Now, following up on my next point, do I believe in God or do I believe in a higher power? Now, the answer to that question is I absolutely do. Now, you got to understand this, whether you are religious or whether you are spiritual, we all come from something, somewhere and something. Now, through my journey and my inner standings and or understandings, however you want to place it, I realized that the God that I've been seeking for my life was already in me. This God that I was seeking for is not somewhere that I got to look up to the skies for or look around and try to find. That is already that in which I seek, I am. You understand me? That in which I want to know, I am. That I am is powerful. So once I realize that everything that I need, everything that I want, everything that I want to be, I already have it. I just need to tap into it. So yes, I do believe in a higher power. However, my belief is that that higher power and I are not separate. There is not this thing that I got to look for and tap into that's in the sky, sitting on a throne somewhere behind pearly gates or golden roads and gates and things of that nature. I am. I am everything and everything is me. There's no separation. So, yes, I do believe in a higher power, but that higher power and I are one. We are connected. Some like to call it divine, some like to call it spirit, some like to call it the universe, some like to call it God, um, some like to call it the most high, whatever works for you. But yes, I do believe in God, and me and God are one. We're not separate. Okay? So look, everybody is on their own journey. Everybody is on their own path. You got to get it how you live it. You know what I mean? Everybody's on different timelines as far as their awakenings. We should do our best not to judge one another. It's not always the easiest, but if you catch yourself doing it, you should definitely make sure that you check yourself so that you don't. And I say that to say those who are still on their religious journeys, it's fine. You are where you are. Again, if you want to come in here into this channel, you're more than welcome. But you're not gonna come in here and try to convince me what you believe in, what I shouldn't believe in. I know myself. I've been doing the work and I'm gonna continue to do the work. So there's no confusion on my behalf of who I am and what I know. Again, you believe what you believe in, you're entitled to that. My job is not to convince anybody of anything. My job isn't to get on here and debate with nobody. My job is to find my tribe of like-minded individuals that are already in alignment with me. I'm in alignment with them and they are in alignment with me. And so we just already connected like that. We are already on that same um, frequency of some sort, right? So, um, yeah, I'm not here to try to convince you of. I'm not a debater. I'm not convincing nothing, right? My job is to raise. I've been sent here to raise the continue to add and raise this vibration, this frequency up, and show people what authenticity looks like, reminding them to be themselves and to move in love. Everything love, all things love. I don't care what nobody say. So that's my job. So that's what it is, family. Um, and that's all I got for you guys today. So so there's never no confusions. Go back, rewatch the video if you need to. But this is me. This is where I stand. This is who I am. I love y'all. Until next time, let's elevate. Peace.